Peter now comes to the forefront of the story once again. Peter's traveling about the country. He went to visit the saints in Lydda. You better be careful. He's getting close to Gentiles over there in Lydda. He's getting close to Gentile territory. Found a paralytic. Said, rise up, take your mat. Immediately, Aeneas got up, and all these who lived in Lydda and the Sharon's the coastal plain. There is a definite article there. And all those who lived in Lydda and the Sharon saw him and turned to the Lord. Wow. In Joppa, there was a disciple, Mathatria, the feminine form of disciple. I mean, that's interesting in Greek. You can make disciple masculine or feminine. There was a disciple named Tabitha, which when translated is Dorcas, meaning a gazelle. Of the Song of Songs. That was a nickname for his beloved. Who was always doing good, that is almsgiving. Almsgiving and helping the poor. You catch that? Almsgiving, helping the poor. What's Luke telling us?
She's generous. She's free with her money. She's a good one. Yeah,
She's a godly woman.
There, I guess.
Godly person. About that time she became sick and died, but her body was washed and placed in an upstairs room. Does anything strike you as odd about that? There's something missing.
The burial crew didn't come out.
The burial crew didn't come. Yeah, there's something missing for
We're having
us.
a wake for this one.
The burial crew didn't come, and there's an important Jewish ceremony missing here that you do with a dead body. You anoint it. Yeah, you wrap it. You anoint it before you wrap it. They didn't anoint her for some reason. Interesting. Placed her in an upstairs room. So Lydda was near Joppa, so when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men to him and urged him, please come at once. It's interesting, they like to send groups. I guess, one of my thoughts would be traveling in those days was a little bit perilous, and better to send 2 than 1. I don't know. But you tend to find that pattern. I don't know if you've noticed it, but a pattern that nobody goes by themselves. You always send a delegation.
Always the buddy system,
I
isn't it?
think so.
So,
Please come at once. And notice how responsive Luke has Peter being. When Peter is asked to come somewhere, he gets up and goes. I think he's setting us up for Cornelius. That Peter, according to Luke, was willing to respond to people's requests to come visit. So Peter went with him. When he arrived, went upstairs. All the widows. The who? Who are these people?
The ones being served by her.
All the widows. Yeah, is this a group? Are these nuns? Are these deaconesses? Is this a women's group? Is this a convent? There are questions that come up. Who were the widows? And why were they all living together or staying together? Don't know. Crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made was so much. So Peter sent him out of the room, got down on his knees and prayed, turned toward the dead woman. Tabitha got up, she opened her eyes, sat up, and called all the believers and presented her alive. And this became known all over Joppa, and many people believed in the Lord. So Peter now has the power to raise the dead. He's very much now like Jesus. The power to raise the dead. So Peter stayed in Joppa. He's getting closer to Gentiles. He's getting dangerously close to the ends of the earth into Gentile territory. You better watch out. For some time with a tanner named Simon. Not kosher. Tanners were unclean because they touched dead animals. So, we have another crisis that's going to be precipitated by this visit to Cornelius. At Caesarea, there was a man named Cornelius, a centurion in what was known as the Italian regiment. He and his family, his oikonia, his household, were devout, pious, and God-fearing. And there's much debate on what would God-fearing be. I think from this account, it's clear that at least in Cornelius' case, he was not circumcised. So we have here likely our first, I think absolutely, our first uncircumcised Gentile. but he was a God-fearer. He hadn't gotten circumcised or baptized or any of that stuff, but he still worshiped the God of Israel. And he gave generously to those in need. That's Luke's signal that what? He's a godly man. And prayed to God regularly. There you go. One day at about 3 in the afternoon, and what's 3 in the afternoon? Time of prayer. One day at about 3 in the afternoon, he had a vision. In fact, it was a time of sacrifice at the temple too. I should have had that. Yeah, it was the time of prayer, but it's also the time that they performed some sacrifices at 3 in the afternoon. In fact, that's when the Passover lamb was usually slain, because that was between the 2 days. You know that, right? Between the 2 days means 3 p.m. in the afternoon in Jewish thought, tradition, and reckoning. So they were performing sacrifices and praying in the temple, and Peter wasn't in the temple, but he was over in Joppa, but at the hour of prayer and sacrifice. Isn't it amazing that he had a vision about animals at the time of prayer and sacrifice? So one day about 3 in the afternoon he had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, Cornelius. I'm sorry, Caesarea. I think I said Joppa. I meant Caesarea. An angel. Not the Lord, but a messenger. Okay. Messenger came to him and said, Cornelius. Cornelius stared at him in fear. What is it, Lord? He asked. I mean, not knowing it was an angel, but being respectful. The angel answered, your prayers and gifts to the poor have come up as a memorial offering before God. The memorial offering was a cereal offering. So now send men to Joppa to bring back a man named Simon, who is called Peter. He's staying with Simon the tanner, whose house is by the sea. So when the angel who spoke to him had gone, Cornelius called 2 of his servants and a devout soldier. What's a devout soldier? What do you think?
Pious.
He seems like a believer too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Who was one of his attendants. So this Cornelius seemed to have some money and an important position. He had a staff. So he told his 2 servants and the soldier everything that had happened and sent them to Joppa. Maybe this is how Luke heard about the story. Maybe he met the soldier or staff or something like that. Who knows? But about noon the following day, as they were on their journey and approaching the city, Peter went up on the roof to pray. So he became hungry and wanted something to eat. And while the meal was being prepared, he fell into a trance. He saw heaven open and something like a large sheet, or a certain vessel, a certain thing, something like a large sheet. Some commentators said like a large sail, being let down to earth by its 4 corners. It contained all kinds of 4-footed animals, as well as reptiles. And I think the Greek is without distinction. You know, Leviticus 11:17 would make great distinction, but it said without distinction. 4-footed animals as well as reptiles of the earth and birds of the air. Then a voice told him, get up, Peter, kill and eat. Surely not, Lord, Peter replied. I've never eaten anything impure or unclean. What does it mean by impure? I think we know what unclean is. What's impure?
Not probably.
Right, not probably ritually unclean. So anything that's actually forbidden, plus anything that's not prepared properly and is therefore ritually unclean. Notice how responsive Peter is to the Lord. That's Peter. Luke make sure we know that that's Peter's reaction. So Peter is what? More zealous for the law and tradition than he is the voice of God.